Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Strong by Design podcast. In fact, episode 400.
400. Come on.
Yeah.
If you're not clapping in your car,
audience clapping. Yes.
Wherever you're listening.
Come on. Matt will add in applause in the background.
That's good. Yeah. Some party.
It is. Yeah, it's a celebration here.
Yeah.
Okay, to be honest, it's kind of technically not our episode 400 because there was a period of time. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we had bonus episodes.
And we never even put, they were bonus
episodes. Yeah.
Bonus episodes. This is in the first couple seasons of the show. Brian and I were doing
13B.
Yeah, right. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I don't know why we were trying, when you start a podcast, you try new things. You try short episodes, long episodes, part ones, part twos, bonuses. We were doing different stuff. And so we didn't put episode numbers on the bonuses.
Yeah.
Because the bonuses were actually setting up the upcoming episode where we would talk about the topic a little bit to get interest, and they were shorter.
Like a teaser.
And that's exactly what we referred to them as, like teaser episodes. Teaser? I can't speak. And so we said, hey, we won't put episode numbers.
Talking.
That is Celsius. I haven't had one yet.
Oh, okay, good job.
Yeah, just natural caffeine from coffee beans.
There you go.
And so anyhow, but officially it is episode 400 because, we don't count those teasers as...
Well, that's a big deal because,
it is.
As you know, most podcasts, like there's lots of podcasts out there.
There's lots.
Most of them...
Hundreds of thousands, millions, but...
They're done by 20.
Yes.
Either they burn out, they run out of content, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
They close the door. Like, it's a lot of work.
It's like 70 to 80% are done by 10 episodes or something crazy. And then like 90% are done by
20.
By 20.
Yeah. So
it's not the odds are not that you're in your favor.
We've gone to several podcasting events where we're talking with different people and they're shocked at the amount of episodes that we have.
Yes.
Which is great.
It is great. It's great to be well
How many
into
years
the
does that
hundreds.
span?
Okay, so this episode releases on the exact, within a matter of days, 7-year anniversary. So this marks the start of the 8th season of the show.
So that means after one more year,
yes,
I will have been a host on the podcast for half of its lifespan.
Not quite, because the math doesn't quite add up. Oh, no.
Time-wise. I've been here 3 years.
Okay, so you're saying by next year, full year from now, it'll be 8 years, and you will have been doing episodes for 4 years. Okay, now I'm in alignment with you. Yeah, the numbers weren't clicking for me.
I don't remember what number we were on when I started.
I don't remember
I feel like
either.
it was 2 something.
So season 1 was 18 into the beginning of 19. Season 2 was 19 and beginning of 20. Season 3 was 20, beginning of 21. Season 4...
That's when I came, right?
Season 4 is when you came, was the early part of 22.
Yep. So there you go.
Yep. So there you go.
That's cool.
So May of 2018 is when we launched this show, and this episode 400 is releasing within days of our launch.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so it is exciting. And today we're doing something we've never done, which it's always fun to have firsts on the podcast because we've done so many different things over the years. Today, the approach to this very special episode, Jared and I decided it would be a commentary episode on our favorite episodes ever on the show. We've never done that. We've done best episodes of the year type thing, best of 22 or best of 20.
But never best overall.
Never best overall, most powerful, inspirational, impactful.
Most listened.
Most listened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like a 90s sitcom reflection episode.
Okay, you said this to me the other day.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember because I vaguely remember what you're talking about.
Yeah.
This was a thing for 80s and 90s sitcoms.
Yeah.
They would do like best.
It's like they're like memory episodes where they have like this short little scene.
Yeah.
And then they just show the original clip.
Yes.
And it's like they kind of have a short story that you're going through for the episode, but the majority it's just like recapping old episodes.
Okay, I do recall what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm wondering why do you think they did that? Just for nostalgia?
I feel like it's money.
All right,
like because
we
you can
get
pay,
extra.
Yeah,
extra.
we can give our actors a break in like mid-season or whatever.
Make new content
and still make a complete new episode, but we don't need everybody. Like usually there's not a lot of extras in that episode, and you can probably shoot it pretty quickly and be done.
We have a whole a YouTube channel that's doing that approach right now.
Yeah.
So we have 3
with minus the new story.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The Critical Bench Compound channel is only shorts material, and it's all based off of older long form videos, newer and older.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, with 3 YouTube channels, you're kind of in a way desperate for content. So you just recycle your own stuff. But gosh, we have so many thousands of videos. It's not like it's good stuff. It's the best clips from old good videos.
And I think that's part of the reason they do it too, is because it's like, man, these were great episodes that we want to remind people of them, or maybe they have new viewers that they didn't see it, and then it pushes them to go back and actually watch
people
those
that
episodes.
Just landed on our show this year in 2025, and they don't really know.
And it's really hard to sift through 400 episodes and find the ones that you want to listen to, and so we get to help do that.
We do. Why don't you kick it off, pal, with an episode that you would like to hearken back to? That meant really something to you.
Well, I'll just start off. So it's been really cool, actually, that I've been able to bring Christiana on, my wife, onto several episodes with us when we're talking about a topic that I know that she's interested in and has a lot of good things to say. And we had an episode with Kevin Sorbo, and while we were talking with him, he actually made the suggestion that we have a conversation with his wife.
Yeah.
And so we did. And so we had an episode where Christiana was on it, as well as his wife, Sam. And so Christiana came on and we talked about homeschooling. And
what episode number? What's the name?
Oh, man.
Let me see here.
I have it. Let's see here. It is episode 320, Education versus Indoctrination, how the public school system is hijacking your kids. And so that was just, it was impactful for multiple reasons. One is I just love talking about family and faith and having the opportunity to speak about those topics. Sam she was great. She has several books that are out talking about this and just talking about how parents need to be active in the education of their kids because the public school system and the education system really has an alternative agenda than to just simply educating your kids.
Especially in certain areas.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The curriculum is different from state to state, city to city.
It is. But the more the government gets involved, the further away it seems to go.
Yeah, they're good at messing stuff up, aren't they?
Where instead of teaching math, they're teaching, gender identity and things along those lines in math class. So that was really cool. And we had just started homeschooling. And so Christiana was having almost like imposter syndrome with being a homeschool mom.
Yeah. This would have been, fall of 23?
Sure.
I think.
Yeah.
Fall of 2023. I believe that's when
I think we're in our second year now of homeschool.
Yeah.
And so for her to be encouraged through that as well and be like, okay, hey, we're on the right track. We're doing the right things.
Yeah.
And not to say that the conclusion for us anyway, it's not, hey, homeschool's for everybody, but the conclusion for us is where does God want your kids? And if you are called to homeschool, know that you can do it. And being actively involved in what your kids are learning, understanding what they're being taught at school and paying attention to that. And really, you want the home to be the main place of education. And that's hard for people because we send our kids to school and then we just forget about it.
No,
and
I know. It's somebody else's job.
It's someone else's job. And that can be problematic if you want your kids to grow up with a certain worldview or even, we get shaped early on.
100% we do. You have to be involved. I realize for a lot of parents, they don't have the capacity to do such a thing. They're both hardworking, full-time jobs, making ends meet.
And we live in a culture
it's
right now that it's really hard to be sustainable on one income.
100%, 100%. And there's a lot of parents, frankly, like myself, who don't have desire to be at home teaching their children school.
But that doesn't mean you're not involved.
It doesn't mean I'm not involved. Exactly right. And my wife's even more so involved. And we are on top of, the school, so to speak, in terms of what's going on there, involved with it, communicating regularly with the teachers. I feel like we're a bit in a bubble, and I've said this to you and to Mike over the years, where we are in like Pinellas and Pasco County. Now we're in Pasco County, Florida. And I've been in and out of those schools many times over the years with the Great American Teach-In, and I'm involved to the point where I feel like I have a good understanding of what's going on in the schools and talking with the kids, and I'm feeling like things are still on the up and up. Doesn't mean that my kids wouldn't maybe have a great experience if they were in some type of homeschool situation, but like I said, it's a very huge undertaking that you and your wife decided to do, and I think there's massive benefit to it. To really focus, and your school day can be shortened. You get all the big stuff done, and then maybe it's 12 or 1 o'clock, and now you can do like your own field trip, your own family field trip, where you go somewhere and learn in the real world.
Florida's awesome.
And Florida's amazing
because
for this.
we just found out that we can apply, and we did apply for basically it's like government money for curriculum, for school supplies, for field trips, for extracurriculars, things that you would get at a normal public school. That they don't have access to, they can now have access to those things, which is awesome.
Last part on this, when we were at Rise UpCon and we were went over to see Sam at their booth, and we were talking with her, and we were like, "Hey, nice to see you. Remember us just from it had been like 8 months at that point."
Sure.
And she's like, "Oh yeah," and then I said something about, well, I don't homeschool my kids. And she looked at me with that look.
Yeah, she did.
And I said, listen, it's not, I just have no desire to homeschool my children. And she did not like my take on,
she did not.
On that.
Nor did she come to our booth.
Nor she did, she didn't come over after. I didn't say it in any kind of an offensive way. It was just like, we're not all built to do this either. You know what I mean?
And that's her mission to
try and convince people.
She believes everyone should be.
Yeah. She does. Listen, I am teaching, and I told her, I said, I am a coach. I coach baseball. I coach my kids. I am teaching my kids. I'm teaching my kids other ways, not just English, math, science, history. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, great episode, great topic, and great that you were able to bring your wife into the conversation.
But you learned that you need a teacher to learn. That's a lie. That learning is hard. That's a lie. That kids need school. That's a lie. It is rife with lies, and they're the lies that are like the assumed positions. It's not whether you had a choice or not to believe the lie. The fact that you went to school, the fact that your parents, who you trusted and adored, right, dropped you off at school, at least to begin with, you trusted and adored them, dropped you off at school, that fact alone informed you. Teacher's always right. School is necessary. Learning's hard. Teaching's hard, right? How many times do we hear how hard teaching is? It's not the teaching that's hard. It's the behavior management that's difficult.
That's fair.
You see what I'm saying?
I'll jump into one. Actually, I want to highlight Coach Tanya, who's obviously not sitting here with us right now, but who's been a huge part of our show from the beginning. And she had an episode 199, which would have been probably season 4-ish. She had an episode with guest Eileen Durfee, and the name of the episode's quite funny. It's probably the funniest title to any of our episodes after 400. Are coffee enemas and saunas the answer to all health issues? Question mark.
Yes.
Now that episode wasn't dedicated.
I don't get why you're asking questions that we already know the answer to.
I know, right? We found that to be a little bit funny and a little bit provocative, but a little bit certainly on point and curious too to what they talked about. They actually talked about a lot of different health topics. Eileen's a wealth of knowledge, and I was actually caught listening to that this morning because I just wanted to remind myself of, why did that one resonate with me? Like that's still, when I think of Tanya podcasting, that one kind of pops in my mind along with like 3 or 4 others. They talked a lot about water and hydration and how most of us are just living dehydrated lives. Yeah. And what type of water we're drinking, where is our water source? And it's not if
what's in your water,
what's in our water, if water that's stripped of minerals, because people always talk about drinking the reverse osmosis water or drinking this
purified
water. But it's a lot of it is just water, but it doesn't have anything in it. There's no
we
mineral
had a system
content
in Colorado that stripped all the bad stuff out, and then it had another system that put the good minerals back in.
Ideally, that's what you would want to do. She actually referenced, I'll give a freebie recommendation to, was it Mountain Valley water, which is water that's, from the mountains. I forget where in the U.S. It's a mountain
Probably
chain.
Colorado.
It could be. It could. I'm sure it's out west, most likely. But people should consider these things. There's a lot of things people don't think about when it comes to their health. Easy things. The air we breathe, the water we drink, the sunlight that we get. And she talks about that too, and how we're an indoor society anymore. Now in Florida, not so much. We are the sunshine state for a reason. We go out of our way. You and Steve were just out on a walk outside before this.
We walk every day.
You guys, so cute, you and Steve, how you guys go out and walk together. Oftentimes I join you. We all go out together, a bunch of us, middle of the day. Listen, Florida is a very inviting state, and we realize how powerful and energizing a walk outside for fresh air, for sunlight, just for clearing your head, for being in conversation and social connection with people you work with, talking about random topics, and just get out of your own way, and then come back and be fresh and energized and sit at your desk and have a much more productive, probably next hour. So that's why I encourage people listening, like, stop always reaching. And I'm saying I do still reach for a Celsius or, Monster or whatever. I mostly drink water, but get up and walk a little bit and get outside, man. It's absolutely huge. It's free.
I struggle with migraines, like
yes, you do. I know.
And just learned that is it the fascia? Is that what's in your muscles?
Fascia, yeah. Fascia, fascia or
the fascia. Yeah, that's when your body runs out of water. That's the first place it pulls from.
Yep.
And so that's what causes
and that gets tight and constrict.
Tight muscles and cramping. And that's, for me, that's why water's so important, is because specifically this muscle in my neck, when it tightens, it causes issues and triggers a migraine.
Wow,
so,
how interesting.
Yeah, so he said he said people will get migraines when they're at a hotel for 2 reasons. Number one, they're traveling a lot and using more. They need more water.
Yes,
and they're not drinking it. Yep. And number 2, they keep the rooms colder. And with colder temperature causes tighter muscles as well. And so both of those things play together and cause headaches and migraines. So.
Yeah. Wow. Fascinating. Fascinating.
Has nothing to do with the episode.
No, but
hydrate.
Yeah, but it's interesting, and that's the whole thing is that the commentary about the episode sparks new thought.
Yeah.
And that episode, I encourage everybody to go back. Episode 199 with Coach Tanya, who's a holistic health practitioner, and she has brought on some amazing guests, people I've never heard of before that are just. I can think of offhand. Dr. Glenn Livingston, I think, he has a talk about binge eating, pelvic floor strong with Alex Miller. There's so many great. The search for the perfect protein with Dr. David Minkoff. There's so many great past episodes that have done really well on YouTube and just downloads on the podcast platforms with Coach Tanya, tackling so many of these interesting health topics. So. Yep. encourage people to go back and check that full episode out. Fantastic stuff.
80% of people are dehydrated or drinking the wrong water, and I believe 80% of all diseases caused by dehydration. There's an excellent book from Dr. Batman Galish. I don't know if I said his name right, but it's Your Body's Many Cries for Water. But basically, I don't recommend reverse osmosis or distilled water because the surface tension on the water is not conducive or hydrating to the cellular, the sacred geometry in the cells. Okay. So you're not going to get the hydration, you're going to get pure water, but then that water is going to strip minerals from your body. And then people go, oh, but I remineralize. Well, then that's where hair analysis comes in, that a lot of those minerals are not what you need. So I do Mountain Valley water. It gets delivered in 5-gallon jugs. And it's got a nice alkaline pH with a lot of the minerals that the body just loves.
So another one, episode 316.
Ooh, no, John 3:16? It's a faith-based episode. I know it is because we purposely.
It's faith and family.
It's Kirk.
Banned in America.
Yep.
Yeah, with Kirk Cameron. And so Kirk was on a little bit of a tour because he started working with Brave Books.
Yep.
He was on his tour of going to libraries and doing book readings. It was around the same time that drag queens were going to libraries and reading to kids, and he's like, that's no good. We need to get better books being read to our kids in the public library. So he started doing that, and we were able to get him on the show. And we've had some different high-profile people on the podcast. He was the most normal, kind, down-to-earth,
a dude.
He was just another guy. And that's what really impressed me with yes.
Remember us talking about beards at the beginning?
That's right. We talked about beards. I asked him, I don't even remember what question specifically. Maybe that's the clip that we'll show with this one.
I remember. And I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
I asked him a question.
Yeah.
And he said, man.
He paused.
He's like, we would need cigars and 3 campfires to walk through that question.
That's exactly right.
And I'm like, sweet, let's do it. So we still haven't done it. That would be fun.
One of these days.
He's closer now though, because he moved to Nashville.
Oh, he's in that. That's right. He's in
so I mean,
Tennessee. That's right.
We should try.
Well, we have our connection to him with Adam Kovar at My Fireside. The fire pit guy.
That would be really.
They're good
fun.
buddies.
It'd be really fun to go.
I would love it.
Anyway, it was just we were just talking about faith being banned in America and
faith and family
family.
Kind of
the attack of the family, God's design for family. So really, really cool episode and just a cool guest. Not just because of who he is, fame-wise, but just because of who he was as a person. I was just very impressed with his humility and his down-to-earth conversation.
Wow. A recent episode I just recorded with another guy who works with Kirk on their new show, Iggy and Mr. Kirk. It's a kids' television program. And
what does he do on the show? Sorry, who is he first?
The guest that I was talking to? I was talking to Danny Adams, who plays the mailman character on the show. Okay. And this new kids show is like a blend called Iggy and Mr. Kirk.
There's another
with Kirk
tie,
Cameron.
maybe, right?
Yeah, that's an episode that has not released yet.
Okay. Do you know where they're filming?
I don't know, but it's probably I would guess it's in Tennessee. Well, no, maybe not. It might be in Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's probably not West Coast, I wouldn't think.
Yeah.
If Kirk's out this way, but they film in 20 episode chunks, you know what I mean? Sure. And then they're done. They film 2 seasons at a time. Yeah. With some of these shows. But anyway, I said to him, Kirk couldn't have been a nicer, down to earth human being, just such a cool guy. Jared and I really enjoyed speaking with him for a while, and Danny just nodded and he was like, he's the best. He's exactly who you think he is based on what you see.
What you see is what you get.
100%.
That was my experience. Is there wasn't a facade there. He's not trying to play a character.
No.
He's like, this is me.
He's got a good heart.
He says what he says. He wants to do what God is asking him to do and be faithful just like everybody else.
Yep.
And God has given him an opportunity to have a network and a platform to be able to reach a lot of people. And he's just trying to be faithful and steward well what has been given to him.
Episode 316, go check it out with the legendary Kirk Cameron.
There's a really good movie I was just showing Chris yesterday. It's called A Week Away, which is on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen that movie at all. It's a musical about a kid that goes to church camp. It's very well done. It's a musical, but they took old 90s music like Amy Grant, and I think there might be a Michael W. Smith song on there as well, and they redid the music. But it's on a secular platform, and it's cool to see almost like bringing Christ and Scripture into a secular setting, and at the same time we have other platforms that have risen up, like Angel Studios, which Angel Studios is doing a good job, I think, of doing both, getting their stuff on secular platforms as well as having their own container. Anyway, I'm just curious, as you've kind of paved that way, what was your process in going through that? Did you think, hey, was there ever a moment when you felt like God was saying, I am supposed to stay in the thick of it? Or was there a moment that God spoke to you and said, hey, actually, I want you to start creating your own stuff separate from Hollywood?
Yeah, Jared, these are good questions, you guys. I'm so glad. The only problem we have is we're so limited. We need about 10 cigars, some good Tennessee whiskey sitting around a campfire to have this conversation.
Yeah, let's do it.
And it's going to take about 6 Saturday nights to get through all the stuff that we want to talk about. So
I do like a good campfire.
Yeah, man, I do. I do too.
Yeah. Well, I'll keep in. I mean, we're jumping all around. Yeah. There is no order to this. This is completely just Jared and I going back and forth on different episodes. I'm going to tackle one that's going to catch everybody off guard. It was an episode that I was in part 2 of, but not part 1. The truth about porn.
Yep.
Mike and Brian, I believe, Brian Klepacki, hosted with our good friend Frank Rich. So that would have been episode 109. Episode 109 in season 2.
Wow.
The truth about porn. I know, way back. And
he's been doing that a long time now. I mean,
that was right.
That's an ambiguous term.
That was really early on in
that's
his new mission in life. And it was a real eye-opening episode. That episode by far is our most downloaded episode ever on the show.
Yeah, which is telling.
Yeah. Thousands of downloads. And it's obviously a topic that's taboo, but people know it's a thing, know it's an issue, know that people struggle with it, especially men. And I mean, I speak for myself. I had my moments too, and I think it was prior to that episode that I had made a decision to not look at that stuff anymore either. And
what's great is that what Frank is doing is not just saying, this is bad, you got to stop.
No.
Like, Frank,
why are you doing it?
Why are you doing it? And he's created a system to say, hey, here's what you can do to move away from that.
That's right.
Like, here, we got to figure out what needs are not being met so that you can fill them in Christ and in a healthy way.
And the dangers of doing it. Because people don't really think of consequences. They think, I'm doing it. I look at porn by myself. Who am I hurting?
Right.
Who am I hurting? Well, you're actually supporting an industry that's wrought with all kinds of evil.
Yes.
You're supporting it by viewing it, by watching stuff and going to platforms and even paying money to participate in this stuff.
And a culture that tries to make it normal.
You're correct.
They're normalizing evil.
That's right. And you're screwing up your brain.
Yep.
You are massively screwing up your brain and all your relationships.
If you're in a relationship, absolutely it's affecting that relationship, but even future relationships.
Yep, 100%.
Like, we had to go through a lot with me and my wife, not because of stuff I did while we were married, but even stuff that I did before we were married, because it messes up your future. It's like, it's a big problem. It's a big problem.
And for all you dads out there who have daughters, think about them.
Yeah, 100%.
Think about your daughter being older,
exploited,
and in this material, in this content that other kind of gross, disgusting guys are experiencing.
And they spin it as, oh, well, it's their choice.
Yeah.
And it's like, no.
Yeah, so for some people, I guess you can make that argument. Other people, they are.
But they get tricked into it.
Yeah,
yes,
they
it's
are
their,
tricked. They are tricked.
It is
into
their
it,
choice, but
Yep.
they're tricked into it.
Yes. There's a word, it's escaping me right now. But
There's sorry, say your thought. And I'll say
no,
mine.
I was just going to say they are groomed
Yes.
to be into this
Yes.
in this culture from
and then
younger
they find
ages.
themselves in it.
Yeah.
And they want out, and they feel like they can't get out.
They can't escape because it's all they know.
There have been so many people that have even come to faith in Jesus that come out on the other side, and they're like, "You have no idea what's going on the other
Yeah,
side."
you have no idea. It's a culture of a lot of gross, dark stuff that
Gross,
a lot
dark
of us
stuff.
don't even
and
think
even,
about.
There's so much we can get into with that that we
know.
don't need to right now.
I know.
But
Go back and listen to the whole episode.
Here's what's really a caveat to that.
Sure.
Christiana sent me a video today of a guy talking on a podcast. I don't even know who it is, but it was someone on Candace Owens.
Oh,
You know?
yeah. I know Candace Owens.
And he was saying that they're taking porn stars and now putting them in TV shows or on cooking shows as a way to like hook people.
To like normalize them.
To normalize them and then push the porn industry.
What the hell, dude?
Yeah. And it's
So that's
like,
their new ploy.
That's their new ploy.
Let's put these people into other like
Into
more
plain
acceptable
sight and
areas,
environments so that we can get these younger kids watching them
cow, dude.
and then
I know
plant
who
that
that is.
seed into going, Christiana was like,
That's weird, dude. That's weird.
yeah, she was fiery, and it makes me a little
You know
fiery.
why? Because in the last several years, they've been taking a lot of heat, and there's been more of a microscope or magnifying glass on their industry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so they're getting the bad press that they don't. You know, these porn hubs and all these freaking things, they need to go away, man.
Yeah.
They need to be eliminated.
Yeah, I think recently Florida actually passed a law.
Yep.
At least I don't know all the ins and outs of it. I know that they're at least in Florida they're making steps in that direction. It feels like, which is awesome. But man, Christiana and I are just like, man, we just need to be praying that we teach our kids to. I said we can't protect them from everything, but we can teach them to be discerning, to say, hey, this is not good and I need to stay away from
This
that.
scares me just like my kid getting involved in drug use or alcoholism or anything else.
Yeah.
That's what I see that as. I see
Yeah.
it as a very evil area to avoid, but you cannot avoid talking about it. You cannot make it like it's not
so
there.
important.
You have to be upfront with your kids and let them know this is not good for these
And you're not going to
reasons.
get in trouble.
Yeah. Right.
You're not going to get in trouble for bringing
Kids
up
are
the
curious,
conversation.
man. They want to see stuff, and their friend they can't control what their friends show them.
Yeah, which is why we try our best to put up healthy boundaries for our kids. Yeah. But you can't protect them forever, and eventually they need to know how to handle it themselves, because eventually it's going to be on them to make that call.
Yeah. No, 100%. It ruins lives. And young people don't look at it quite that way. But trust me, when you've lived on this earth as long as I now have, at almost 50 years old, you realize the dumb choices, the destruction that's waiting for you with that decision.
Yeah, and please don't just think that this is a faith-based perspective.
No,
there's a company out there called Fight the New Drug that you can go check them out. It's completely science-based and talks about the harms of pornography on your brain.
Yeah, 100%. So episode 109 with Coach Frank Rich, a good
check
friend of
out
ours.
His ministry too is Rebuilt Recovery.
Yeah, well, actually, doesn't he have even a new name for it?
Oh, that's
too?
right. It's
you'd probably find it if you did.
Yeah, if you look up Rebuilt Recovery, you'll find it. But he's incorporating not just he's incorporating fitness into it as well.
Yeah, he really is. And I was speaking mostly to men, to helping men through these journeys.
The Rebuilt Man.
Rebuilt Man.
That's
there
what
you
it
go.
is.
I knew you'd get it.
Yep.
And episode 213 is part 2 of this conversation, which was with Mike and I hosting, and Frank going deeper on the topic and covering more material, because he had been in that line of work now for a few years and had more to talk about.
Yep.
So episode 109 or 213 for The Truth About Porn.
Yeah.
Seasons 2 and seasons 4. Powerful conversations indeed.
Probably the easiest way is to look at it through the lens of neuroscience and understanding a little bit of what dopamine is. So neuroscientists, or science in general, they look at dopamine, which is a modulator or neurotransmitter. It's basically a chemical, and we have all these different chemicals. We have dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, like they all kind of serve different parts in just our everyday life. They give us good feelings, they give us feelings of joy, they give us feelings of happiness, they give us feelings of motivation. Dopamine is a currency of motivation. So the way that scientists will look at it is the amount of dopamine that is associated with a particular behavior or experience will dictate the level of addiction that experience or chemical is. And pornography in the neuroscience world is what's known as a super normal stimulus.
It lights the whole brain up.
Beyond anything that you're going to get in the natural world.
Yeah.
Beyond anything. Super normal. So what ends up happening at the most simplest terms is second exposure to internet streaming pornography. Once again, let's preface it under that context. I'm not talking about Playboys. I'm not talking about VHS, DVDs. I'm talking about what we have access to, this infinite amount of supply of internet streaming pornography. Hardcore material is recognized as supernormal stimulus. So second exposure, you've established a new baseline of dopamine for your brain. So if you have this new baseline that was established through a supernormal stimulus, now once you return back to the normal world, you'll never be able to replicate that naturally. So what are you going to do? You're going to need to go and seek out more pornography. And that is addiction 101, when you need more of something to create the same stimulus response.
So we had a really fun guest on here who's actually your pastor at the chapel.
Oh, yeah, I know that guy.
Pastor Q. And he, again, he's a pastor of a multi-site, large church here in the Tampa area.
The chapel.
The chapel.
Yeah, they've just opened up some campuses
and
in the last year.
Was so fun. And we laughed so much in that episode.
He's basically a comedian.
Who
loves God.
Super entertaining. Well, he was a performer. He was a musician performer, and
that was his whole.
That was his life
career.
for a long time. Yeah. And so it was just cool. And the topic that we talked about that everyone says, "Oh, we just need to love everybody," right? That's always the thing: is love, 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 love. But we talked about how love does not equal acceptance. Mm-hmm. And how we need to define love according to Scripture and not according to culture. Which is funny that everyone says accept everything, except don't accept the Christian, and don't accept their God, and don't accept their faith.
Yeah.
But accept everything else. Right. And so that's kind of telling in and of itself. Yeah. But being able to really hash that out and recognize that loving somebody is sometimes letting them know that the things that they're doing are harmful.
Loving someone can be the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
And not loving them can be the easy route.
Yeah.
Not telling them the tough thing they need to hear.
Yeah.
Not affirming
not accepting
their choice.
Where they are, but saying, hey, I love you enough to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I'm standing in the way of this because I see this as a very bad decision that you're making. Yep. When you love your spouse or you love your friend or you love your children and you say, I wouldn't do that because or I see this as a bad thing for you.
Or this is what God says not to do and here's why.
Yeah. Right, go right to Scripture to back yourself up.
Christiana and I have been reading through. Well, we watched the show House of David.
Hey, is that good? Because I want
so good.
Okay, because I want to watch it. My wife and I have talked about it a couple of times. We want to watch it.
You would like it a lot.
Or kids?
We watched it with our kids.
Okay, all right.
Yep. And what's great about it is like we set our kids up to say, okay, hey, we're gonna watch this, and we want you to help us discern what is Scripture and what is not. Like where have they deviated? The characters of David, Samuel, and Saul, they nailed them. They did so good. Oh. They have some storylines to fill in the gaps, kind of like The Chosen.
Yeah, you have to. Right.
But what's cool, like Samuel's character, where he goes to Saul and he goes to David, and he's just speaking the heart of God to them. They just do so good with that. And it's like he's speaking to them in love. And you can tell his deep love for Saul when he says, the Spirit of God is going to leave you because of your disobedience. And he's like, and Saul is actually on the mountain praying and saying, God, no, don't take your Spirit from him, like pleading with him all day and night. And God says, no, I'm moving on to somebody else because of his disobedience. And for him to go and speak that in love to Saul, when he's giving him really, really bad news. That scene's so good. So anyway, I know there's always going to be people
one
out
season of that show out right now?
Yes, 8 episodes.
8 episodes,
Yeah,
okay.
It's basically
Is it an Angel Studios production or no?
No, I don't
Okay.
believe so. No,
Okay.
this is on Prime.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, so which is cool to see all of these things popping up. 5 years ago, I remember thinking, man, why are there no Christian industries making really good entertainment on mainstream platforms? We're always trying to create our own side platform. I'm like, that's dumb. Like, that's not light in the darkness. That's like separation. Right. And I said we should be doing. And as God was pushing that on me, He was doing it with people who were in the right spaces to be able to make that happen.
This is a complete tangent, but like Frank Turek's book, Hollywood Heroes, that came out several years ago at this time.
Is he one of your top episodes?
No, he isn't. But the reason I'm mentioning it is he wrote a book with his son called Hollywood Heroes, basically how movies reveal God.
Yeah.
Action movie.
On accident.
Right. Because all of these stories, if you look at the stories with Batman or the stories with Captain America or Iron Man or Superman or all these, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, they are all the Jesus story in some way. Yeah. And some of them even more so than others. If you look at Harry Potter, you'd be shocked. Yeah. He is a Jesus character. You look at the lion in the Narnia.
Yeah, which that one was
Aslan,
intentional.
That one's intentional. But some people still like, oh, I love that movie. Yeah,
they don't make the connection. The
lion is Jesus.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the Jesus story is the root hero story in all of these superhero stories, and those are mainstream, and those do real well, don't they?
Yeah.
But because they don't say anything about it being a biblical story, it just kind of goes under the radar for people. But that's why the stories of the Bible are the best stories.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of them are real.
Yep. So episode 323, why love does not equal acceptance with Pastor Q.
He's a wonderful man, good human being.
Yeah.
And the chapel in my hometown.
I think right now what culture is doing is redefining what love is. I think culture is just redefining what love is. And
I think they already have.
I was going to say, and it continues to evolve. Yeah. The definition continues to evolve. So what's happening is their definition, culture, is going to vary from people who believe different things. So if you just take the not argument, but the discussion between Christians and people who not necessarily they know about Jesus, but they don't have a personal relationship, it's just whatever, it's casual, let's say. Their definition of love is not defined by the Bible. Their definition of love might be defined by whatever it is. It could be their emotions, their feeling, their background, their own religion, whatever. So what happens is you have a split because we're not dealing with the same thing. I believe life is defined by design. That designer is Christ. That's why I love being here, that's the idea. So if you don't adhere to that, we're automatically going to be opposed. Not negative, not hate each other. See, and there's the key.
Yeah.
We have opposing views because I subscribe to this. You subscribe to this. Okay. I had a great conversation with somebody the other day in terms of love. They felt like God was releasing them from their marriage. Right. And I was like, okay, tell me.
All the signs were kind of pointing to.
All the signs. I was talking to this guy, great guy, good guy. I got to get out. What? Okay, just tell me why. What? She doesn't understand me. Married 4 years. Well, of course you don't understand. It takes a lifetime. I'm married 34 years. I just found out something 2 weeks ago. I didn't know. And it's not a negative, but I got to navigate it. That's what I always tell people. Just because you have to navigate it doesn't mean it's a negative. It's just you got to navigate that. And so what he's doing is he's like, well, I believe there's your mistake.
I want to give some love to one of my favorite guests, Dr. Boz. Dr. Annette Bosworth, she's an internist or internal medicine doctor.
Yep.
She's been on the show here, I think 3 times. Got to get her back on a 4th time, actually, this year. I've already tried to get that ball rolling. Every time we've talked in some way or another about brain health, brain function, and it's always so enlightening for me. She's absolutely brilliant, has a great sense of humor. and I've enjoyed every one of our conversations. The more recent one that we did, which was season 6, episode 305 and 306, we chopped this one up into 2 parts. Double trouble. Yeah, we talked for a long time, so we had to break it up into 2 episodes called "The 5 Habits to Protect Your Brain." And you know how I've become really intrigued by brain health and how movement of the body impacts our brain health, especially as we age.
It's actually, I think there's a video out there, some sort of TEDx talk.
Oh yeah, could be.
Yeah,
where
you're right. Some guy named Chris Wilson spoke about brain health.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So, and this was, this is going back a bit. This is like a year and a half ago.
It was a good plug, right?
It was great plug.
You're welcome.
Yeah, check it out. Go on the TEDx YouTube channel and look for a conversation about how movement impacts your brain, and you'll find my talk. But it's so enlightening because she has so much knowledge and so much experience, obviously working with people over the decades, and how she was talking in real time about, we still know so little about the brain, but it's obviously we've started to learn a lot more in just the last decade or two with the way we can see the brain working in real time. And when she's explaining some of these tests, it was just so eye-opening to me that they could see activity, neural activity in the brain while somebody was being asked questions, and they could see different parts of the brain lighting up as they were asked different questions. And then when they were asked to think about their answer in another language that they knew, they saw another part of the brain light up. It was like fascinating stuff. How your brain operates.
That part of my brain doesn't work very good.
Yeah, you don't.
The other language.
Spelling, especially the spelling
That's
part
the same
of your
language,
brain.
though. That's the problem. So it's really broken.
Yeah, you definitely have a broken, maybe a couple wires that just need to be,
My mom blames the public school system for that, by the way.
Does she?
Uh-huh.
She does. Have you guys talked about this before?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
because it's been a problem my whole life.
Yeah, the spelling
issue. I remember vividly in like 3rd or 4th grade getting great grades in everything except spelling. And it was like because I was taught to spell how it sounds.
Yeah.
They said sound it out.
Phonetic.
Remember?
Phonetic
sound
spelling.
it out.
I know.
Okay, sound it out. And so that's
called phonetic spelling.
And that's how my brain wired. Yeah. And it's like I can't break that. It's like it's fused together.
One of my favorites.
And I come up with all kinds of ways to sound.
You've spelled some good ones over the years.
Sound it out.
One of my favorites is, there's 2. I have to highlight two moments.
Yeah.
One was the word
Throw me on the chopping block. I'm ready. Yeah. Routine. See?
No, it was.
I have to listen. In order to spell it correctly,
Yeah.
I have to think about it phonetically. And,
Well, you did routine like a teen, like a teenager.
Sure.
ROUTEEN.
Which I think is.
And I said to myself,
that's acceptable.
That's reasonable to me. That's reasonable. That makes sense. I see where he was going with that.
Yeah.
I know what word he means,
Yes.
right? The other one, though, that was more entertaining than anything else was on a thumbnail.
Yeah.
I believe you had the word together. You remember this, right?
Yeah.
And I had to share it with Steve.
Part of that's not spelling.
It was basically like together. And I was like, Jared, you misspelled together on a thumbnail for a YouTube video. And it was like, oh, okay, no worries. I'll fix that real quick.
Sometimes it's a speed thing, too.
It's a speed thing. And he sends me over the revised thumbnail, and I go, this one's even worse. And I brought Steve into my office so I could show him the revised version.
I also feel like maybe I have like undiagnosed dyslexia or something.
You might be. But what's hilarious to me, and maybe this makes perfect sense to some people, your speaking ability is terrific. No one would ever think for a second, and you're well read. You read books and stuff.
I do.
Right?
Yeah, all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
And typically those two things go together. If you're a good speaker and you do
but to be
a
fair,
lot of reading.
Some of that stuff didn't come until later in life either.
Right.
Like I've always kind of been a speaker, but never really did it consistently until like late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
And I didn't really start reading a lot until that same time.
Yeah. So it was maybe early
Yeah,
developmental.
so early developmental just really messed me
there.
up. That says a lot for us as parents and
so
what we're doing
your
with our
brain's
kids.
not as far along in some areas as it is in others. In other areas, I think it's, it's
They say when you have a
very far
traumatic
along.
experience
Yeah.
that your emotions stop growing until it gets healed at that age. So like if I'm have a traumatic experience at 6, I could be 30 but have the emotional intelligence of a 6-year-old.
Oh, that makes sense.
So maybe I just have some crazy traumatic experience with spelling, and so I have the
I'd love
spelling
to see
capacity.
you in a spelling bee with like a 7-year-old.
I told you that
get
story,
just
right?
Whooped.
Listen,
You did tell me that story.
because I was a good student.
Yeah.
I got selected to be in the spelling bee.
And what was the word you got wrong?
I don't even remember what
I
it was.
thought you remembered what
I don't
word.
remember the word.
But it
I
wasn't
just,
a hard one.
It was apparently an easy word. I got
somebody
it
said
wrong.
something to
yes,
you, though.
Walking off the stage,
Yeah.
a lady said, "How did you spell that wrong?"
to like a kid.
So yeah, that's my traumatic experience, and I'm like, because I suck at spelling. Okay,
That's why I should
don't
never.
know.
I should not even be up here.
Yeah, I don't know why I was selected for this stupid competition in the first place.
Oh, that's great. All right. So anyway, back to Dr. Boz, 5 Habits to Protect Your Brain. Go back, listen to the part 1 and part 2.
Yep.
You won't regret it. It's fabulous, and she's just the best.
The brain is the key to that. The aging process is what you want. The other option was dying, right?
Dying, right?
So when you look truly at the fears that they struggle with and they bring to the clinic and they bring, they try to find the words that you're asking, and then when you can ask it back to them in a much more succinct letter, their eyes, like, that's what I'm worried about. It is how well will I be able to use my brain as my, and that gets back to that lifespan, health span, where how long you'll live is one thing. Medicine has a great way of keeping people alive today. It doesn't have the best prescription habits to get them healthy.
What do you got, buddy?
So episode 335 was the 5 C's of credibility with John Streetmatter. John's just a smart business leadership developed guy that goes to Grace Family Church. Just him and his wife are both completely fantastic. But he came on and talked about the 5 C's of credibility. And I think about this all the time. Because...
And he has a great voice for radio, John.
He does,
if I
yeah,
recall.
he does. And he's a great communicator. And actually, I got invited to go to a staff meeting at Grace where he was talking about this, and it was so good. The content was so good. I'm like, you got to come on the podcast and share this stuff with us because it's that good. And we know our history, right? I know what I've done. I know my resume. I know what I'm capable of. But when you meet people, they don't know. And so he talks about it as like we have, we're giving deposits, right? Like we give deposits into a bank. And in every action that we do, we're either building towards credibility or we're taking away credibility. And just the value that brings. And so we always need to be making these deposits everywhere that we go to build our credibility.
Yeah, 100%.
And we see that, right? You see that as a company. You see that as an individual. We see that, if we are putting out bad content, then it really hurts our credibility as a brand or as a company. And so, and same with, so anyway, I don't need to say a lot about that episode other than you should, if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to it because there's so much application that comes out of that. And it was just, it's something that it's one of those things that the things that I learned in that episode by having that conversation with him has completely impacted the way that I process a lot of what I do.
Wow, that's awesome. John Streetmatter.
Yep.
But he spells it. It's different kind of spelling, but
he explains it in the episode.
He does. I recall that. I recall listening to that episode.
Because it's Streitmatter, and he's like, just think of that streets matter.
Yeah.
And then you'll remember their name.
Then
forever.
you'll remember my name. Right?
Yeah, Streetmatter.
Yeah, the 5 C's of credibility.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. You're always building it up, or you're unfortunately
tearing it down.
It reminds me of something that one of the guys I coach with says to the kids when it comes to baseball and improving.
Yeah.
He said, you're either incrementally getting better or you're going backwards. right?
They say that in faith,
you're moving
too.
in one direction or the other, and you have to always consider in any sport that your competition is always improving, making strides to improve.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's the nature of anything is, competitive anything, competitive in the workplace.
As soon as you think you've arrived, you're in danger.
You're in danger. You have to always be doing something more to improve, to get to the next level, because you've never arrived. You never have. Why did Michael Jordan continue to practice, or Jerry Rice, or Kobe Bryant?
Steve Curry.
Or
Stephen.
Stephen Curry.
Yeah. His friends call him Steve, and we're buddies, so.
We're good buddies.
It's not true. It's a lie.
These guys, they're not just like, I'm good enough now.
Yeah.
I don't need to keep
Well, some
working.
do.
Some do. And guess what?
They fall.
You don't hear about their names not spoken much anymore. That's why. The guys who are at the top,
Peyton Manning.
Yeah. They don't stop. Tom Brady. They don't stop. They are highly competitive and highly driven, and always trying to find a way
to be better.
And you can do that in every area of your life.
Yep.
So it's fabulous that episode really stuck with you. And what number was that?
335.
335. Yep. Yeah, I have to go back and listen to that one again, because some of them, I know I've heard it at least once, but then a year goes by or whatever, and you're like, geez, I have to go back and listen to that episode again. So it's great, man. Well, you have to reach out to him and say, hey, I was talking about you a lot today, and your episode still resonates.
I talked to him about it a couple weeks ago.
Oh, there you go. That's awesome.
So let's first talk about what credibility is, right? Credibility is really, will people follow you or not, right? Do people find you credible? Do they believe what you have to say? Will they follow you or not? It is literally the currency of leadership and influence. And it functions in many ways like a bank account, just the traditional checking account, right? Where you're making lots and lots of transactions in the course of every day, every week, every month, every year. And there's good news and bad news about that, right? The bad news is that you make deposits in very, very small increments, right? To the right of the decimal point is how I like to think of it, right? Nickels, dimes, quarters. You're particularly kind to somebody, maybe that's $1.50, right? And then, the news gets worse in some respects, which is when you make a withdrawal from your credibility bank account, when you do something that people deem as not credible.
Right.
That happens to the left of
Cancel
the decimal
culture.
points. Right, yeah, we'll have a long conversation about that if you want. That happens to the left of the decimal point, often happens to the left of the comma.
Yeah.
So you can just sort of think about the math, right? If your average deposit transaction in our credibility bank account is, 17 cents, and on average we write a $1,000 check, takes a lot of deposits to back up that.
Return guests that we've had several times, Pastor Bob Brubaker and John Tribino, they were local. Actually, Bob is still local. He's a local pastor at a church here in, I think, Largo. Largo or Clearwater, one of the two. John is a retired police officer from Largo, and they started their own podcast called the PowerBreak podcast that I still listen to faithfully. They do really good short form, 30-minute, highly structured episodes where they talk about a blog article that Bob has written, and they talk about it in all areas of life. And they're fabulous men. They've been on our podcast multiple times. Mike and I did a 4-way episode with them. So it was Mike and I hosting with Bob and John. The name of the episode is Why You Can't Live Without Hope, episode 208 from season 4. One thing that makes me laugh about that episode is I was right here in my office over here, and on the same day, they were replacing light bulbs here in the gym. And you could hear the dang cherry picker beep every time it moves or goes backwards. Beep, beep. And you could hear some damn beeps in that episode. It pissed me off. I'm like, why did I... But I don't think... I think I'd had that podcast scheduled for a long time.
You didn't want to push it.
I didn't want to push it or move it. And then it just wound up being the same day that these people came to do the lights. I just remember how annoyed I was in my office, but the conversation was fabulous. And it's so good. The wisdom and the truth. Bob is one of the most well-spoken. He has a voice, a radio guy would die to have. He's such a smart, wonderful man. He's the Pillsbury Doughboy of Scripture. You just like touch him, and out comes a Scripture and knowledge.
Yep.
And he's such a love for God. And the whole episode's about where we find our hope, and that our hope is in an eternal Creator, and we truly don't have anything to fear, and that He has us. As long as we've, given our lives to Him, He is there for us, regardless of our day-to-day struggles.
Yep.
And anyway, we kind of talk through this very deep, robust topic. It's hard to cover it all, obviously, in just I'm giving you a glimpse of that powerful episode, but it resonates with me. It actually is one of our best performing YouTube videos on the Strong by Design podcast channel. The episode thumbnail is that beautiful painting of Jesus from that young girl from years ago who did this. I think her parents were atheists, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it sounds right.
And she had a dream of Jesus, and she painted this absolutely beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful depictions of Jesus I've ever seen, handmade from a little girl. I think at the time she was maybe like 9 or something. She was just very young, and it was very powerful to me. And I said, I think I want to use that as the thumbnail for the episode. So go back and listen to that, Why You Can't Live Without Hope, with the legendary Pastor Bob Brubaker and John Tribino, hosts of the PowerBreak podcast and good friends of our podcast.
I do not want you to be uninformed, brothers, about those who are asleep, that you may not grieve as others who have no hope. The real bottom line is whether we really have a hope in Christ is how we face the monster death. If we face the monster death with hope in our hearts that the Lord Jesus Christ has done exactly what it says in the book of Hebrews chapter 2 and verse 14, that on the cross, he destroyed the devil, who through all of our lifetime has held us into bondage to the fear of death. We fear death no more because the Lord Jesus Christ has accomplished victory over death, meaning he's accomplished victory over sin and death and even Satan himself. So what need we fear? And so when he talks about the fact that, listen, too many times we're uninformed. We don't know the scriptures. The scriptures are very clear to teach. We have victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. And the bottom line is we will never, never, ever be taken out of his hand. As we have trusted in him, you know that we're in his hand, and no one is able to pluck them out of his hand. He said, and my Father, which gave them me, is greater than all. No one is able to pluck them out of my Father's hand. I and my Father are one. So we have hope of eternal life. We have hope that even when we face the monster death, we need not fear, because he's won the victory over that too.
So the next episode that I wanted to talk about was episode 337. 337 with Pastor Stephen Christian. The title is, I Almost Lost My Family to Rock and Roll.
Now, why would you name it that?
Yeah, well, let me tell you. So Stephen is
best known for being the lead singer of Amber Lynn, which is a band that's been around for a really long time. It's had a lot of success.
Awesome music, dude. I used to listen to them back in high school. And I'm 41, so they've been around a long time.
I didn't even know that. It was like I didn't even know
it's him. Yeah,
it's him.
What's really funny is like my Spotify stuff. Sometimes it's on like just an era of music, and then his stuff will pop up, and because that's just what happens.
They have some great hits.
But the thing is I wanted to bring him in and talk to him about boundaries, because I've been in a band and I know what it's like to travel around. And the reason that like my band never got off the ground was because first one band member got married, and then the lead singer got married, and then everything just dissolved, right?
Exactly,
because you don't have the time for it.
Right.
And so
the touring and the shows,
all of it.
And
so I brought Stephen in to ask him the question, hey, how are you successful for so long? And what kind of boundaries did you set up to protect your family? And he said, honestly, I didn't for the longest time. And he said that was the problem. And so he's like, we're we're doing it now, and he's actually stepped away from the band where he's no longer touring with them, or
he's not
recording music with them anymore. And they came into town last week, I think, and he'll still show up for that show and like hop on stage for one song or whatever. And it's kind of like a guest appearance to his own band, which I can only imagine what that feels like.
Well, and of course the people, the fans are like, oh,
it's Steven, he's here. Yeah. So they get really pumped for it.
Right.
But the thing that was really stuck out to me about that conversation was he talked about how when he's on stage, that's not actually who he is, right? And so we see that a lot of time where we see people on a platform or even with our pastors where we think that's a representation of who they are, when really he said it's a character I play. Those were his words. It's just it's a character I play. That's not who I am.
That's right.
And so people fall in love with the character and not with the actual person. And I think that's a struggle with having any kind of fame, but I saw that play out.
You're seeing a persona of that person, a version of them that's the stage,
right? The stage presence, right?
Singer guy.
There's a really good pastor at Grace, Hal Mayer, who speaks and super dynamic, a great teacher, and you would expect him to be super extroverted. And I just learned because Christione and I are table leaders at the Married Life couples groups on Tuesday nights, and he was doing it's like a round table kind of discussion about the topic we're talking about, and he said he's actually introverted, and how the way that he recoups and finds re-energizes is to be alone. And so there was one day after service that I saw him just kind of hanging out in the lobby, and I felt like, man, he wasn't like the vibrancy wasn't there that I saw on stage. And they have Saturday night services. This was probably the end of the third service that day, or whatever it is. I'm sure he was exhausted, right? And he's out there because it's important for him to be out there and connect with people. But I'm sure that internally he was just spent that day. And it's not a knock on him at all. It's just the reality of how our temperaments are at play and things like that. And the reality that how we build someone up on stage is not that's not who they are in real life.
To be in a more intimate one-on-one environment with somebody.
Then you're just talking to 1,000 people walking.
Because you're talking to
literally
an audience.
Thousands of people too.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, because it's virtual as well as in person, and it's a completely different way of communicating.
Yeah.
And some people are just it's like actors. You've heard actors. Have these amazing screen presence, but then off stage they're quite reserved and quiet and soft-spoken,
or they're really mean and nasty.
Or they're really mean and nasty.
Yeah.
Or they're exactly who you think they would be.
Yeah.
Like a Jim Carrey type guy or something.
Kirk Cameron.
Kirk Cameron, who we already mentioned. So
that's good. I mean, I just think that it was a great episode and one to put on the list.
Oh, and the hair.
That's true.
And the hair.
Yes,
Your hair, his hair.
Yeah, we talked
great
about
heads of hair.
We did, yes. I actually asked him what he does for his hair, and his answer was he does nothing. He doesn't wash it.
That's why it's so good.
And I'm like, I mean, I have to wash my hair. If I don't blow dry it into place.
Yeah, you're very particular with your methods.
I am. Because if I don't, my hair just does whatever it wants.
Yeah.
It doesn't, like yours lays nice. Mine does not lay nice.
It takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
Mine, I have to leave it a little bit wet, so it's damp, not dripping, but damp. And then my strategy, which is funny, is like I don't buy hair product. Whatever lotion I'm putting on my hands and face or wherever else I want to put lotion that day, because some days you're going feet, legs,
Gotcha.
Some days you skip, whatever. I'm a guy. I just run my hands through my hair. So whatever lotion of the day is being used, it's going into my hair, and that's what helps hold it in place.
Yeah.
It's good enough for the skin.
It's good enough for your hair.
It's good enough for my hair.
I get you.
Love Steven. Love when he comes to work out with us.
And he's actually been on a couple of times.
Yes.
On the show. And he'll show up and to our group workouts or he's become a good friend. So.
Yeah, he's a good dude. In fact, when you had your the health crisis a few years back, He's the first guy who called me about you.
Yep. Actually, I just had another one a couple weeks ago.
Right.
And he texted me and said, next time this happens, can you please be in town so that people can visit you?
Sure.
Yeah. I'll do my best to have crazy, debilitating migraines when I'm in town.
gosh,
Because we were in Orlando for this last one.
Please pray for our man Jared to get past these migraines and his wife. Goodness gracious, you guys.
I think for me, throughout my career, I've tried to make sure that I'm not just Stephen from Amberlin. I saw so many people like in bands, and I feel very blessed, very lucky that Amberlin got where it was. But I saw people that were even in bands that weren't as successful, and I'd watch as their career ended and they would just drop off the map, you know, because they had got their identity so consumed into the band, into who that was, that character that they played on stage became them. And then suddenly when that was over, that season of their life over, I just watched it just them just crumple as humans. And so it was something I was very, very self-aware of just kind of making sure that there was almost a division point. Like that character on stage, he stayed on stage. I didn't come home and treat my wife like that. I didn't want to treat my family or my friends like that. That's just not who I was.
Love that description. The character on stage.
It is. I mean, that's all it is a persona, you know, and even that, you know, people, I think, you know, when they come and, you know, they know me just in the church world, when they come to an Amberlin show, they're just like, what was that? Like, you know, just a little bit. But there is, I mean, and that character is somebody I developed, you know, very much because, I mean, as far as I'm not saying I'm introverted, but I'm definitely not
as extroverted
as that person is, as that character is, you know, and you got to have a level of that, a level of confidence, a level of, I don't want to call it pride, a character of pride, you know, of
energy,
just saying,
though.
energy.
I mean,
absolutely.
You're working with the energy of the crowd and the energy of the people there. And if you're not engaging with them, they're not going to engage with what you're doing.
So, all right, well, I guess it's my turn.
It's your turn,
We're doing this back and forth ping pong thing, which is a lot of fun, actually.
Yes, sir.
Very excited about this episode. One of the more powerful conversations I've ever had on the show was with Mike, and we had the legendary Dr. Meg Meeker on the podcast, who is a huge, it was a huge deal for us.
Yeah.
This was somebody that Mike and I had talked about for years to bring on to the show. She is a best-selling author, a longtime pediatrician, and she is one of the most fabulous voices you'll ever hear for the need for fathers in the home, for dads to be present and involved in their kids' lives, and how necessary, how meaningful, how detrimental it is to society when dads are not part of the picture. And she is just fat. If you're a guy, if you're a dad out there and you need some inspiration, some motivation to do what you do and showing up at being in your kids' lives, go to meekerparenting.com or just read a Meg Meeker book. You will feel like you're so valuable, and
stats don't lie, right?
Yeah, stats don't lie.
Yeah, the value and the impact that the father has on the home and on the children is just astronomical.
Astronomical.
Yeah, not to devalue mom, because mom has a huge role to play as well. But there's just something in the way that God designed families.
Moms are there. Moms are always there. It's very hard for a mom not to be there, right? Because moms are just that next level emotional beings, nurturers. You come from.
Can I just say the baby that I attached to the most?
Yeah.
Was Eris.
Okay.
Here's why. Because we have twins.
Right.
And with the other kids, Christiana was nursing them. She took care of it, like through the night, whatever. Like there wasn't really anything for me to do. With the twins, she couldn't do it on her own.
She couldn't do both.
So she was actually nursing, but she was also pumping. And so I was in charge of feeding Eris as a baby while she was nursing Enoch. And so it was a connection that I had with her that I'd never had with any of the other kids.
Yeah,
and there's just something unique that moms have in that connection with babies because they grew inside of them. So there's a unique bond there.
Yeah.
And so there's absolutely moms have an incredible role to play. There's absolutely 100% valuable and needed. But there's something about the father figure in the home, and Meg really addresses that.
She does in a way I've never heard anyone else address it.
Which is crazy too, because she's coming from a female perspective.
Exactly, and that's what makes it even more powerful and meaningful to me, is to hear this strong woman talk about her dad and how important her dad was in her life, and what she has seen over the last 3+ decades as a pediatrician. And the power of a father in the home. So, dads, if you need those words,
good resources.
Episode 326, Why Dads Matter. One of my favorite episodes, and Mike and I really just loved that one.
I would actually add to that, fighting for dads, because it's a battle. And here's why I started down this path, because I've taken care of kids, a lot of teenagers, for 32, 33 years now, and I've seen everything. I've taken care of every kind of teen and child you'd want, and it's just a great blessing. And what I was seeing, particularly in the early 2000s, the late 90s, early 2000s, was that the kids in my practice who were coming out of difficulty or thriving well or overcoming depression, anorexia, and so forth, were the girls who had a dad who would periodically come in for a visit with them, or who were engaged, or who the girls had a fairly decent relationship with. I'm not talking about great dads. I'm talking about dads who are there and engaged on some level.
Yeah, on the same kind of line as like fatherhood and parenting, one of my all-time favorite guests, I think one of your favorite guests too, was Pastor Anthony McDaniel, who was on actually just 5 episodes ago.
Now 2-time
Yeah, he's been on here twice. But this last time, episode 395, Parenting the Way God Designed It. And something that's important to me as I'm raising my kids, as we're raising our kids, is we want to see parents who have been there, done that, and have had success. So when I see a parent who their kids have grown up and they now love Jesus, his kids are actually all in ministry in some shape or form. And so I always...
3 or 4 kids?
He has 3 girls.
3 girls.
Yeah, and I always ask the question, like, what did you do? Like, what did you do so that your kids grew up and still they didn't run away from the church, right? Because we've seen where even in some homes where one follows Jesus and then the other one like goes off the deep end, and it's like, what in the world?
Yeah,
like,
one rebels,
or they all rebel, or
they
whatever.
all rebel.
It's just like, what did you do? And so it was so insightful and so impactful to hear his words of wisdom about things that they did in their home in order to raise these girls to love Jesus. And what's great about that particular episode, not just that one, but several of our episodes, is that the feedback that we've gotten from people, where one guy actually from our church reached out to me and said, man, I listened to that whole thing. I've been struggling with some of the decisions I've been making in my own parenting. It encouraged me. It inspired me. It gave me wisdom. He wanted to have a separate conversation with both me and Anthony. And so it was cool to know that the podcast was actually making a difference in somebody's life. That it's not, I mean, we sit here and we have a conversation with each other. It goes off. We post it, whatever. And sometimes it can feel like, I don't know if people are listening to this at all or not. I don't know if this is actually helping anybody or not. We want it to be.
What's funny? It's helping us.
Yeah.
Our podcast, we like it so much because of what it does in our own lives.
Sure.
And their connections that we're able to make and meaningful conversations. And then the side effect or the side benefit is that we get to then take an awesome conversation and give it as a gift and share it to thousands of people that will never know.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
But I want to know.
But
I want to know.
Hearing from a few of them that moved them in their lives in some way positively.
So
that's good. That's good too.
Find ways to connect with us and let us know that, hey, this was a good conversation. Maybe you have a favorite episode that you're thinking, man,
Could you bring that guest back?
Yeah, bring that guest
talk
back,
about that
or
topic again.
go deeper on this subject, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
I think hearing back from people would be so valuable for us.
It is. 100% is.
Yeah.
100% is.
And
Because a lot of times the only feedback you get is where you're failing or what you're not, in customer support or something. It's like you get that 1-star review and how much somebody hates you for something. I love do more of this. Love this.
Yeah.
I love that person. Love that guest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would love that.
Yeah. Anyway, so Anthony was just, he's a character anyway, and he's just so much fun. He's so funny. Reminds me of Pastor Q, actually.
Yeah.
Just in the way that he carries himself and conducts himself. And so it's a blast. It's such a good episode.
He's a guy you like to sit with, and we've gone to lunch with him a few times after we podcast. And a couple of things that he said just really quickly. I love that he said, from when my daughters were 13 to basically their teenage years, he's like, I was largely unliked by them because of the tough choices, decisions, and parenting that had to be there for them.
Yeah.
For, as a parent, you're standing in the way, as we talked about with Pastor Q, you're standing in the way of things that aren't going to serve them well. And that's not going to always be a great experience for a kid. So I love that, you don't always have to be liked by your kids, but your kids will respect and still love you.
They have enough friends. They only have one mom and one dad.
That's exactly right, 100%. Something else that he said was that funny story about his wife going and embarrassing the one daughter out at
she was at a bar.
At like 12, 1 in the morning.
Which she wasn't doing anything illegal.
Oh.
She was older. She was out of the house, but mom knew it was a bad decision, whatever she was doing, and so she just went and showed up where she was.
To go hang out and embarrass her right out of that place.
Yep, and she did that. I think he said the daughter got up and left.
Yep.
So, and later, I don't know if he said she was thankful or not. But
I don't know the outcome of that.
But it was definitely, I actually saw her that Sunday and I said, so you went to the bar, huh? And she was like, yes, I did.
I imagine she's probably a lot like him in that regard. Like her. They must have a great relationship, Anthony and his wife. That's awesome. So, well, thanks for bringing that one up.
Absolutely.
And for a recent one, that was certainly a fun one. And we'll have him back because we have more to talk about.
We didn't actually. The whole reason I brought him in this last episode, we never even got to what we wanted to talk about. So we'll have him again.
Yeah, we definitely will.
So to answer your original question, basically he's asking, did I rebel? I didn't rebel because my parents were parenting my heart, the motives, the thoughts.
Yeah.
And my mom was so much love. She would say things like, Anthony, I'm just real concerned about your attitude right now.
Concerned about your attitude, Mom.
Yeah.
That sounds like a real teenage response for sure.
Yeah, and so my mom was.
But she got your full attention when she would talk to you that way.
Prayed with me every night. Yeah. My mom laid her hands on my head as I'm about ready to get in my car to go to my high school, and prayed something like this: I plead the blood of Jesus Christ over Anthony. May no harm or danger come to him, and may he give you glory in all that he does today. Something like that.
Yeah.
Every day. I heard it hundreds of times. So, and then a lot of times I would get up in the morning. I'm getting up early. I walk in the bathroom and my mom is on her hands and knees with her face in the Bible, praying in the Spirit. After she's been, and I'm like, phew. That gets in your head, man.
No, man. She wanted her children to really know God and to have him in here in all their decisions.
Yeah.
She know it would keep you out of trouble, probably.
And my dad was preaching on Sunday, and we lived it on Monday.
Yeah.
My dad would call us all together and pray.
Consistency and character.
Yeah, I mean, we do more what we see our parents do than what they say.
Yeah.
If there's incongruence, it's not parallel, it's not like railroad tracks, they're going to do what you do.
Yeah, every time.
If it's congruent, it's parallel, what you say is what you do, and what you do is what you say, then, man, that message is very loud.
Sure. So I have two more.
Okay.
So I'm one-upping you. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, it's because
I've been here longer.
You create rules, and then you break them.
And then I break them. It's just, it's very hard for me to pick just my favorite conversations over the last 7 years.
Then you say I don't care and I don't have passion.
That's right.
It's all a trick.
It's all a big trick. So one is a conversation that left me irritated and frustrated.
It left you so irritated that you were listening to it again this morning.
Yes.
And I heard a bellow from your office. And I was like, what is he so angry about?
I was just getting fired up.
It's because you were rewatching that episode.
I was. So it was episode 149 from season 3 with Dr. John Jaquish. The name of the episode is Weightlifting is a Waste of Time.
It's really too bad because he has a really cool name.
He does have a cool name. And he seems like actually a pretty cool guy. He's super well-spoken, super sharp. He has a book by the same title, Weightlifting is a Waste of Time. Now, that's speaking to a guy who's been part of
weightlifting culture for a long time.
Since the 90s. I know a lot of people in this world. I've been around them, learned from them, been inspired, motivated. I've been lifting weights since I was 10 years old because my brothers were 5 years older than me in our garage growing up.
Side note.
Yeah.
Do you think people in 1820 referred to the 1790s as the 90s?
Yes, I do actually.
Okay, that's all.
I do.
Yeah.
If it was like 1803.
Or people in 1920, they're like, remember back in the 90s? But it's 1920.
They could. They could have. They could have. I feel
curious.
like they would have.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a complete
The funny
derail.
thing is, whole generations go by, 100 years go by, and then you don't know how they would have referred to that unless it was in a book somewhere.
Right.
Right. Because you have no one to ask. They're all gone.
There's no video.
There's no video. It's funny though, right? Yeah. Because we talk about I love hearing when people try to say like they say the tens or whatever.
Yeah.
Like. Well, that's weird. That sounds weird.
I'm curious.
Or
in
the zero. What do you say for the 2000s?
When we hit 1930, are we going to refer to this as the 20s, or when someone says the 20s, are you still going to think about 1920?
No, you have to put 19 in front of it now.
Yeah.
Because when we get into the 2030s and you say the 20s, that's 2 years ago.
I would say the 20s, or I would
100.
say, hey, remember 10 years ago? Yeah. As opposed to like back in the 20s.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
I don't know.
How did you start talking about that?
You said that you got into weightlifting
in the 90s. Right. Yeah, because that's the thing right now.
Yes.
That's how you would say it.
Yep.
That gives me credibility.
But
they know I'm at least a certain age.
I know for sure you're not talking about 1890.
You know for sure I'm not talking about 1890. So this being said, the conversation was very irritating to me because of his point. And his point is to bash every other form of strength training
outside of his
market
product.
His own product, the X3 bar. Now,
is that a candy bar?
Yeah, no, it's not.
Oh,
it's
because honestly, you've said it for a long time.
Device.
You kept saying like the X3 bar, and I was like, oh, it must be like a protein bar or something.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
It's a mini bar. It's a short bar, stainless steel with hooks on the ends that hook onto a strength band or power band.
Gotcha.
Power bands, strength bands have been around for decades. Power lifters have been using.
Good for joints
and
stuff.
It's a strength tool for you putting on a barbell.
Sure.
Or you can use them. You could use them without any weight. You could put it around your back and do presses with them. You could put dumbbells in your hand with the band.
That stinks though if your hand slips.
It could, but I've done it many times. Never had any accidents. But yes, issues can happen with anything. They are a great tool, and you can get great gains by using his bar, his band, his package. Comes like a little teeny platform that you can put under your feet, and the band actually goes underneath that, so you don't have to stand on the band. It actually kind of rides underneath this little section of the little mini platform.
Sure.
And then you can do all your lifts with that. There's certain lifts that don't feel very comfortable because the bar is so short that your hand placement's awkward.
It's weird. Yeah.
Yeah. So I made a video that actually got a ton of views. Thousands and tens of thousands of views, lots of comments too about people saying, "Oh, you're not following this program the right way." I'm like, I wasn't making this video about following his program.
Yeah.
I was talking about how his bar feels for all these 8 different lifts that he recommends you do with it. Now, he has programming built into how to use this bar effectively to make gains, to change your physique, to get stronger, do all those things. While there's great value in that, you can get great gains with a kettlebell.
Yeah.
With dumbbells, with a barbell, with whatever mechanism or strength tool you decide to use and you're committed to and dedicated to it. A rock.
Yeah.
You could go out. I mean, guys were getting in shape long before weightlifting was a thing, right? They were just because of the way they lived their lives. If you live your life a certain way, whatever thing, widget, gadget you make important to you as your tool to get fit, to get strong, that will be the way for you. Your path works for you. He's just trying to market his product and saying that every other thing is a waste of time, because look at look at how many people have gym memberships and how many people are still fat and obese and out of shape. Like, sure, but you could say that about anything in life.
Sure.
You know.
Look at how many people go to church and
so
they're not.
I largely
following Jesus.
disagree with his sentiment that calisthenics is a waste of time. Having a barbell is a waste of time. If you have a home gym and you're using this stuff effectively, regularly,
somehow people got fit before he invented
100%. People were in great shape before anyone knew who this guy was. 100%. Where do people fail? They fail because they're not disciplined and they don't stick to anything.
Or they don't eat right.
And they don't eat right. That's why people fail. Okay. And so anyway, that conversation was never forgotten. Sticks out in my mind as one of those ones where I was happy to speak with him, happy to talk about his book and his X3 bar product, which we did buy. We have one here.
Yeah, it's not the product that bothered you. I think it's the fact that he said everything else is
a waste of time, because you're poking holes and firing. You're using everyone else's success that they've had in different areas of strength training as you're trying to say it was useless or pointless or no. I mean, what are you going to tell the guy I learned from in the 90s, Lloyd Weinstein, who I used to get clients from, was a record-holding power lifter who was in impeccably great shape, super strong, and he was the one that inspired me for form, for good form with your squats, your deadlifts, your bench press, because the way I saw him train. And you can't tell that man that all the weightlifting that he did was a waste of time.
But this is controversial stuff, because, I mean, people are going to hear this and say, okay, so what? I should like throw my barbell away, or I should stop doing calisthenics? Like, that's no good for me anymore? But you're not saying that, are you? You're just saying that there's a better way to get the results that you're after?
I wouldn't waste my time with calisthenics, and I wouldn't pick up a barbell. And I'm in better shape than probably, 90% of most people who would be called in shape. But I'm applying some different principles. So I call the book Weightlifting is a Waste of Time, not Resistance Training is a Waste of Time, because that's false. Resistance training is awesome if you apply the resistance with a better understanding of what the human body can tolerate.
You can get great results regardless of your apparatus.
Yep.
You could use machines and get super fit. So anyway,
I know I don't base it on my apparatus.
Your apparatus is. We don't go into that. We won't go into your apparatus. You do come out. We fool you into getting out here sometimes for a little bit of weightlifting.
I like weightlifting. Specifically with dumbbells. But just with my neck stuff and different things like that, it's like I'm trying to not.
That feels like it exacerbates your issues if you come out and push yourself.
Yes.
Right. But you're an active dad. You're heavily involved in your kids. You guys are out in nature and doing stuff, and you're skateboarding and walking and doing all
trying
that
to do
stuff.
other stuff.
Yeah.
But I was just feeling it today, actually, going, man, I need to try to get back on some sort of regular schedule. And just even starting light.
Yep, absolutely.
Just to get some movement.
If people did just calisthenics at home, if everybody did, and you start with whatever the numbers are the numbers, right? But like you say, you start with 50 push-ups a day and 25 pull-ups and 100 jumping jacks and 100 body weight squats. If everyone in our culture did that, did a baseline of just calisthenics body weight training every day, it would be unimaginable improvement in people's health and strength, and it would be. It's just that people aren't committed enough to do this.
In fact, the thing that keeps you healthy longer and is good for your brain, I hear, is just simply mobility.
Yeah, 100%.
Staying mobile. And if you want to hear more about that, you can go listen to a guy I know, Chris Wilson. Did a TEDx talk.
I did.
TEDx talk recently. So
lifelong movement supports your brain. It's something to that effect is what they titled it. My talk was actually the #1 medicine for your brain. It's not what you think, but TEDx kind of put their own title on the video when it went up, and it's performing. It's doing great. It has like 15,000 views.
I think it's doing better than any of the other videos from your group, right?
Well, not a few of them obviously advertised big. There's a few of them that have hundreds of thousands, if not maybe 1 million views, because they
already.
Because if you put a lot of money on a video, it'll surge.
Yeah.
So all the views on mine are organic. And we have yet to. Well, I'll probably advertise it at some point just to get it more visible.
Well, I didn't know you could advertise.
You can advertise any YouTube video you want.
Oh,
which is pretty cool.
That's cool.
It is cool.
All right.
So that being said, I want to end on a high note.
Yeah.
What I think is a high note because of the sentiment is really embodies our show. One of our hosts and guests of the podcast over the years is Joe Miller. I don't know that you've even ever spoken with Joe, have you?
I haven't.
Wonderful young woman. I say young woman because everybody to me it feels young anymore. She is a mom. She is a wife. She is a phenomenal in strength sports, powerlifting, and strongman competitor. She's little. She's like 115, 120 pound. Very strong, very powerful, phenomenal athlete.
Yeah.
She is also an identical twin. And several years ago, episode 217 in season 4, she was a guest. And we recorded an episode titled An Unbreakable Bond for Life. Well, her identical twin sister unfortunately succumbed to cancer, which was a terrible loss for her. Very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Hard conversation to get through. I was there was a few moments where I was kind of speechless.
There's a super unique bond that a twin has with a twin, especially an identical twin.
An identical twin. Nothing quite like it. And
I mean, we can't experience that, right?
No.
Like
we can't. The closest we can come to experiencing it is being maybe a sibling of twins, which I am.
But even that feels different because
of course
you're in different stages of life, even a couple years apart.
100%. I was baby brother, 5 years younger than my identical twin brothers. To me, they were like super brother. They were like one in a lot of ways. A lot of people couldn't tell my brothers apart. They were truly identical until later in high school. They started to look a little bit more different, but younger, no one could tell them apart. And they used to go out of their way to fool people and play games with people. Yeah, it was very entertaining.
I know Bob, and I
know
can see
my
Bob
brother
doing
can be.
That,
Right. Well, my brother Dave died of brain cancer in 2013, which was a very difficult time. For me, certainly, but more so even for my brother, because I could only imagine what.
So you had a lot of emotional ties.
Emotional,
in that episode.
100%. This conversation with Joe brought up a lot of feelings in me about how I felt for my brother losing his identical twin, what that must feel like, and the connection that they had, and going from being a baby, always being next to your twin, and wearing the same clothes, and sharing the same bed, or being in the same room.
All of it,
your best friend's always with you. You're never apart. All sports, you're together. Every meal, you're together. Classrooms, even sometimes, you're together. It's just everything in life is together. And then to lose that. And so Joe was just really like so open with her feelings, but how she leaned on God during this very, very difficult time. And that was her source of strength to get through what she couldn't imagine this getting through. If you interviewed me back, prior to losing my brother, or prior to even knowing that he had a tumor, and to think, hey, one of these days you're going to lose one of your older twin brothers. I would have just been like, what? How? I can't imagine. And then for my brother Bob, so talking with Joe was just so powerful. And I know you mentioned that it's one of your mother's favorite episodes.
Yeah.
On
So
our
I mean, when I
podcast.
started working here and I started on the show, she was going back through and found that episode and just commented on it to me.
I think it was a
couple of
recent
times.
episode when you started. Actually, that's probably
Must
why
have been really close into that.
very close to when you started
so
working.
I know it was super impactful to her.
Yep.
You know, and it stuck out, and she's talked to me about it. So
I would encourage anyone who has lost a loved one, somebody that was very, very important to you.
It's having faith and trusting in God through suffering, right?
Yep.
And we have that choice to run and trust God in suffering, or to run away from Him and blame Him for everything. And so,
that's right.
Being able to hear from her and hear how she's sorted through that in her faith journey, and be encouraged in whatever you're going through. Like, incredible episode to be able to do that.
100%. Have hope. I mean, I have hope in an eternal life in Christ. And I got to imagine that I'll be reunited with my brother, my mother again at some point, that this is not the end here.
Yes. Temporary versus eternal.
That's right. And to me, and I was just listening to a wonderful episode on the Jordan B. Peterson podcast. Jordan Peterson, the very famous Jordan Peterson. He had John Lennox on. This might be, it's an older one, maybe in the last year. And it was such a great conversation. These two brilliant minds talking about God.
Yeah.
And talking about eternal life and talking about who Jesus was. And so anyway, I say that because we should find hope, as I've talked about, and why you can't live without hope. That episode, and like if we can have hope in a life that's so much greater than what we are experiencing here, that gives me great peace in all this suffering. Why would we all have to go through this suffering and this loss? And I mean, there has to be a reason. At the end of it, on the other side.
Give us some details and some insights into that kind of what happened and you know, that stage of life and how difficult that was for you.
Yeah, after my twin sister was diagnosed and went through her cancer journey, as she called it, blessed cancer, when she eventually found her ultimate healing in heaven, it was devastating. We were 33 at the time, and sorry. Sorry.
It's okay, I get it.
I remember thinking life moving forward was going to be impossible, that it would be the hardest thing I had ever faced, which was saying a lot. And I remember one day driving home from work and thinking and praying to God, I don't know how I'm going to make it. And then I remembered my twin and how she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. Sorry. And how that was an impossible journey to face, but she faced it with so much faith and strength and positivity. And it just, all of a sudden, it gave me the strength, like, if she can face that, she taught me everything I needed to know to face this with great faith. And I remember feeling really guilty, because it felt unfair that I was still living. And I struggled with that. And actually, the first year, it was really hard for me to work out. I felt like she had been bedridden and would have given anything to walk, to run, to lift weights. And I got to do so much, and I had so much more. and I was so healthy, and I was feeling like it was not fair. But then I was praying, and I felt like God told me, what are you going to say to your sister when you see her one day in heaven? And she asks you, so what did you do with all that extra time? And that just struck me so much. And from that moment on, it was still hard, but I pushed myself. I thought, I'm going to live for both of us. I want to make as many memories as possible so that when I get to heaven, I'll have so much to share with her. We'll have so much to talk about, and she'll be so grateful that I didn't waste that time.
I want to encourage everyone listening, please go back. These episodes that Jared and I have mentioned today are just scratching the surface of what this podcast is all about, what it's been about for the last 7 years. There's so much great stuff. Go back and just have some fun. Share these episodes with friends and family members. Please reach out to us with any questions or with comments, feedback. We would love to hear from you. All of the different platforms where we share, go check it out. Obviously, the podcast channel, Strong by Design Podcast YouTube channel, is a great spot. But certainly even just on Instagram, you can see a bunch of reels. There's a lot of material out there. Thanks, Jared.
Thank you.
You made this extra special today.
Happy 400.
Happy 400, brother. Appreciate you, man. And listeners, we'll be back as always. We either release weekly or every other week, depending on which season we're in here. It's a lot of content that we're producing, so sometimes we like to take a little bit more time with our with our episode creation. So it's been an absolute pleasure. We hope to give you another great season in 2025, our 8th season here on the podcast. God bless you and your families, and we'll talk with you again very soon. Thank you so much for listening to the Strong by Design podcast. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe so that more people can find out about our show. Plus, you don't want to miss any future episodes with the amazing guests and topics we have lined up for you.